Hello everyone, my name is Danilychev. I'm Principal Sales Engineer at Citrix, and today I'm going to talk about Citrix Microapps in the context of hybrid workspaces. My agenda is going to be fairly straightforward. I will have a quick intro that I already started, as you can see. We'll have a use case to discuss and a demo to go with it. Then we're going to look into the architecture that addressed that particular use case. We're going to discuss benefits of SSL bridging and low-code app proxies that help us to accomplish that. And then we will discuss practical considerations, and I will offer you a few recipes that hopefully will help you with your own micro app implementations. Well, first, SSL bridging and low-code app proxy. When we do need to expand our REST API compatibility, that could be the answer to patch our REST API compatible systems with some other protocols, pretty much communication lingo that might be required. And let's not forget about leveraging Citrix connector ecosystem. When using Citrix Microapps, we might want to talk to Citrix apps and desktops, or to, for example, to Citrix files. That will be a great feature to integrate with our microapp services. So the use case. Let's say we have physicians that are attending their patients in a hospital setting, and sometimes they do need help from IT staff to address their computer needs. Quite often, the call will be triaged through the help desk, where help desk will have some limited capability to address those things themselves. However, if they're not able to do that themselves, they will forward it to IT staff, and if IT staff needs to take things a little bit further and talk to people that actually wrote those applications that support those physicians, it will bounce to developers. So at the end of the day, the triaging of the calls, figuring out who is responsible, let's say, for the outage, finding solutions, that all takes time.
Hold the right handle!
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
This is where we can rely on microapps to address those needs without necessarily exposing underlying infrastructure and making unwarranted calls where we will not follow separation of duties, we compromise our security just to resolve issues quickly. Give you an example. If physician needs to restart the virtual machine that got stuck, help desk can use the micro app to do so. If developer needs to suspend virtual machine, create a few snapshots, roll back the developer's desktop, for example, to the previous instance, they don't need to reach out to IT staff and do it. They will be able to do it through the micro app without necessarily knowing what hypervisor IT staff configured for them and how everything actually works together. When we try to address this use case, we'll have to look at it from perspective of it's being secure and conducive to separation of duties. We have to be fast and responsive. Adding additional elements to the system should not have an overhead of additional maintenance, and it has to be cost effective. So in essence, those three elements are very crucial if we embark on something that will require us to build some additional capabilities, put additional levers into our environment. So let's take a look at a quick demo. Here we have our Citrix hypervisor. It's one server in one pool. We're looking at the Zen Center console. That's on the left. On the right, we have our micro app running within an iPhone. It could be an Android phone. It could be a web browser. And what we do here, we're actually looking at some of the functionality that Zen Center provides us, packaged within a micro app. So first, we're going to do this. We're going to rename one of our virtual machines that could be used, let's say, with apps and desktops, right? But in this particular case, we'll just focus on the hypervisor. And let's see if by clicking the refresh button in our micro app, we can actually see that the name of that machine was changed. And indeed, the name did change. So we just removed a few characters at the end of the name. Okay, so right now what we're going to do, we're going to click on a few buttons and see what else can this micro app do. Machine was halted. As you can see from the status, we're going to start it right now. And indeed, it starts. Again, there's no acceleration, so everything is done, no editing, everything is done in real time here. Let's try to reboot the machine. By the way, notice that the status in the micro app was actually updated without clicking any additional refresh buttons. Everything happened in real time. Now machine is restarting. And notice it's running right now. So what we have done, we are suspending the machine, and let's see how long that will take. So as you can see, the suspending process already started, judging by the yellow icon on the left side of the screen. And let's see if we are notified that machine is actually suspended. This operation takes a little bit longer, right? Because we have to also suspend the memory state of the machine as well. Just preserve it. And again, everything is done automatically for us. All right, here's a good place to pause, and let's take a look what's behind the scenes. Let's take a look at the architecture behind this micro app. So here we have kind of a simplified depiction of apps and desktops environments. So we have users with their endpoint devices with either Workspace app installed natively, or maybe they're using a web browser, accessing Citrix Cloud with additional benefits of Citrix Analytics services, and in essence, pretty much the environment that will allow them to gain access to resource locations that are either in the multiple clouds, multiple data centers servicing apps, desktops, Windows, Linux, right? Or even physical PCs via Citrix Remote PC console. And what we're going to do here, based on our use case, based on the demo that we just seen a few minutes ago, we're going to plug in micro apps into this equation. And we will need Citrix Connect appliance because in this particular case, we're using Citrix hypervisor that's on-prem. And that Connect appliance will require a SSL certificate, which has to be a commercial certificate, not self-signed certificate, not homegrown certificate, but fully authenticated certificate, so we can talk to on-prem Citrix hypervisors securely. And in essence, that will be a fairly straightforward setup to start with. Now, once we started and we're looking for a solution refinement, one of the questions that comes to mind is, well, how many authenticated SSL servers do we actually need for this solution? Can we leverage other connectors, for example, Citrix Files connectors, not just Citrix apps? And since we're bolting multiple systems together, how can we make sure that surface of attack is kept at the minimum? And also, remember our use case where we clearly had separation of duties. We had customers, basically physicians, then we had the help desk, then we had IT staff, we had developers. Everybody were doing their respective jobs, right? But when we interconnect the systems, the question is how much knowledge, for example, developers do need to know about our infrastructure, right, to be able to write good code. Ideally, we don't want to treat them as second-class citizens, but at the same time, do give our IT staff enough flexibility to be able to improve underlying infrastructure without stepping on anybody's toes. And then, how about RESTful APIs? If we take a look at apps and desktops that we're discussing right now, the native way to talk to either on-prem or Citrix Cloud apps and desktops is PowerShell. RESTful APIs are not always available, and the target system might not even have a PowerShell capability. There might be something else. Let's say you have an SSH connection, SOAP over SSL, WebSockets, whatnot, right? What do we do? And then are we overcomplicating things? That microapps provide purpose-built applications that reduce the complexity, not increasing complexity of our environment. So to answer those questions, let's zoom into microapp service and how things are connected. Connector appliances do provide redundancy. You can have actually multiple connector appliances dealing with different SSL certs. But you might notice that there is a risk of SSL certs spawning, especially those are commercial certificates. They do cost money, and even more importantly, they have to be maintained, right? So you probably should not be bound into buying more and more certs based on the fact that you are connecting more and more systems to your microapp service. At the same time, if you look into spawning of microapps that you might be compelled to do because of the number of targets you have to support, that also might be problematic because the number of microapps should be governed by your business needs first, maintenance and the expense of maintaining second, right? And the number of microapps should not be too small and should not be, which will be restrictive, but it should not be too large as well because it'll be hard to maintain those microapps, and it actually will cost more to deal with it than something in the middle, because between too few and too many. And then the question also will come in, if we don't have RESTful APIs, how do we talk to, let's say, other connectors? How do we talk to other systems? So what is the solution? So let's take a look at possibility of adding a few extra components. Easy, quick, can support large and small environments. So what we'll do here, we'll add SSL bridge to this picture. People that are familiar with Citrix ADCs, with Citrix NetScalers, will know that SSL bridge function is actually quite easy to deploy. It literally takes no time to do so. What will happen, we will have an SSL certificate installed on our proxy, and every target can technically actually have a single certificate because we're going through that SSL bridge. And here I'm not advocating having a single SSL certificate by any stretch, but you will have full flexibility to have very few certificates or as many as you like, and you will not be bound to one certificate per your target. Also, what's important here is this. When we communicate with other systems, we can petition microapp configuration in such a way that microapp will be aware of bridge proxy URL. So after all, connect appliance does talk to that SSL bridge that has exposed that SSL certificate of particular URL, right? But after the SSL bridge, that infrastructure becomes obscure to both microapps, and in fact, it can be obscure also to our proxy. Because once our proxy receives a request from us, from microapp service, through connect appliance and SSL bridge, based on the REST request, it will know what port associate with which application. Then the connection will be forwarded back to the SSL bridge, which will know where those targets are located. Notice, while the SSL bridge will be the only appliance here that will know where to find those targets, where those physical addresses are, it will have no visibility into the traffic because SSL traffic is pass-through, right? The only thing SSL bridge does here is provides legitimacy to the certificate that installed on those machines by resolving the SSL bridge IP address that is pretty much facing the connector appliance to fully qualified name, right? So this pretty much arrangement works. And then our application proxy, and that's the reason it's called low code application proxy, will either forward REST requests directly to our targets through SSL bridge, or if, let's say, those targets do require some different lingo to communicate with, like, for example, PowerShell, we'll be able to translate those. We'll start with RESTful call from Microapps services, translate it to PowerShell, and then talk to our target systems. Now, in our particular case, the demonstration with Citrix Hypervisor and the microapp designed for it, we're actually talking across HTTP with JSON RPC protocol, which is a little bit different than what microapp services expect, but because we do a few translation steps, it's completely transparent to microapp services, and we'll have perfectly formatted RESTful interfaces available to microapp services. Oh, and by the way, we can talk to apps and desktops connectors. Like, for example, we can use PowerShell doing that. We can talk to the different clouds, and pretty much opportunities are limitless because we can talk HTTP, we can talk SSH, whatever you can code you can provide on the app proxy. And again, for the most part, we're translating requests. We're not substituting the target system functionality, which can be quite sophisticated, and we'll have no time in the world to actually duplicate it, and no intentions either. So here it is. So this is the essence of this presentation. SSL bridge, low-code app proxy, ability to reduce the number of SSL certs, and reduce the reliance on RESTful APIs, which might or might not available for particular targets. Let's summarize. SSL bridge can drastically reduce the infrastructure overhead and will not compromise performance, security, and audit capability. Low-code app proxy can be used for both internal and external systems of records or applications. And as was mentioned before, there is no visibility into the target, into the physical infrastructure of our targets, which is protected by SSL bridge and dedicated port network. RESTful interfaces can be provided to microservices as needed. So if a RESTful interface is available, right, there is absolutely no reason to duplicate the effort. We can pass it as is. However, with the benefit of hiding behind, let's say, one IP address, but just going across different port number and still using fewer number of SSL certificates. And if need be, let's say if we need to attach to some target system through PowerShell, for example, we can translate our RESTful request into PowerShell, execute given task, and provide Citrix microapps with the feedback, how things went. Notice that when we talk about SSL bridge, Citrix ADCs, the people that are familiar with Citrix NetSkillers, will spot right away the fact that SSL bridge is actually quite easy to implement with Citrix ADCs. So it's a great use for the production case where you need to implement this approach. By the way, we're going to discuss some free alternatives for development environment, but for production, Citrix ADCs are unbeatable. And then, as far as supporting small and large environments, the demo that you just seen deals with one server, with one host, and one pool based on Citrix Hypervisor. Since we're abstracting communication to our hypervisor from the end user, that could be any other hypervisor out there. And also notice that if we have, let's say, 100 pools, like 64 hosts each, fairly large environment, we can easily do it through the same microapp. Because heavy lifting is actually done by our hypervisor infrastructure, and the amount of traffic and requests that microapps process is actually minimal. And also debugging and testing. We can easily attach debuggers to our application proxy and take a look what's happening. We can attach our development environment to the bridge as well and have a completely separate path when we need to test things out. So things are very easy, very quick to deploy. If you remember, we left our machine in a suspended state. Now we're going to resume it. So just to confirm that our resume button works. And by the way, we will see that we didn't need to press any extra buttons to refresh our micro app. We should get the state for the micro app updated once machine is running. And yes, it actually worked quite nicely. So what we can do here as well, we can test a few buttons. Let's say we'll shut down the machine, for example. But what we're going to do, we're going to focus on our use case. Let's say developer that needs snapshot capabilities. And let's see how easily we can accomplish it here. So, all right, our machine was shut down. So let's find it again. And what we're going to do here, we're going to start it. Again, everything is real time. So depending on the complexity of the task, things might take less or more time. We're going to take a look at the snapshots that we have here. So notice that when we select our virtual machine, we can also select the snapshots that are associated with that machine. So what we can do here, we can edit the name and the description of that snapshot. Why is it important? Well, it actually demonstrates that Microapp is able to do nested calls to our target environment. Because if you take a look at the way Citrix hypervisor deals with snapshots, snapshot is created first, and then you add description to it. If you want to change the name of the snapshot and change the description, it's actually done in 2 steps. Well, Microapps should be able to accomplish that. And notice that it actually worked. Let's take a look if our description actually came across, and also if our microapp was updated accordingly. All right, so description is there. The name of the snapshot was adjusted. So now let's take a look. Yep, snapshot name was adjusted here as well. Now we're going to create a new snapshot. Let's call it another snapshot. We'll add description to it. Oh, and by the way, notice that snapshot has blue icon. That tells you that that snapshot done for the underlying disk system for that virtual machine. We're going to take a snapshot that takes also the memory state for the machine. That will take a little bit longer, but what will be kind of representative of the fact that we did take a full snapshot, including the memory state. The icon will be different than the blue one. This operation clearly will take a little bit more time, but let's take a look how long does it take. And here we go. We have actually a green icon here. Our micro app was bounced back to the opening page, and let's see if we have that snapshot associated with that virtual machine. Okay. Now we're going to create another snapshot. So this time we're going to create a snapshot just for our disks. By the way, it's quite easy actually to implement a very granular snapshot capability where snapshot will be done per individual disk. In this particular case, we just do all the disks, let's say the multiple disks associated with that machine. We'll take snapshots of all of them. But in any event, it's fairly easy. And notice this, well, we're on the iPhone. It's kind of very conducive to find some emojis to put into our descriptions. Since we took care of UTF encoding of everything that was sent into the Zen server, we're not going to have any side effects of doing so. And let's see if that actually comes through and our Zen Center will actually see that change. Things are progressing nicely. So let's go back to our virtual machine. And yep, we'll have our last snapshot with emoji in the title. And again, I'm not suggesting to put emojis there by any stretch, but as you can see, both description and the name got emojis in them. Now, what will be interesting to test is this. If we select one of our snapshots, can we revert our machine to that snapshot? Pretty much, again, working our way through the use case. So what we're going to do, we're going to go to the snapshot called My Snapshot, and we're going to revert to it. All right, so it looks like we did revert our state to that snapshot. All right, we're all caught up with the demo. Now let's take a look at a few practical considerations and recipes that I can share with you. This part will be fairly brief. Feel free to reach out to me if you have more questions, but in essence, our first step will be to get access to Microapps and download the connector appliance. Here's the QR barcode that you can scan to find out where that appliance can be downloaded. Again, process is very quick and straightforward. Select hypervisor of your choice. Download starts, and then when you install your appliance, you can register it on this page as well. So then we need to point that appliance to our target. So here's the GUID for the appliance and the URL for our target. That's going to be our SSL bridge. And before we put this thing in production, Nginx proxy is probably one of the best appliances to get for free. Available from one of the sources is Turnkey Linux. You can either download the ISO under 200 megs or a full-blown VM for the hypervisor of your choice at about 350 megs. If you deploy it to the cloud, it's actually almost instantaneous. Then get help with SSL bridge configuration. That's an excellent article you can follow. A few steps left. How do we make our application proxy? There are all sorts of choices out there. I'm just giving you an example with ASP.NET Core from Microsoft. This is a great article. It even gives you information about Postman, debugging of your pretty much RESTful interfaces. And that will be the core for our application proxy, and here's the barcode to go with it. And here's the micro app we can create, right, once everything is in order. But don't forget also to explore Citrix SDKs. For example, we have used here JSON RPC to talk to our Citrix hypervisor. Here's another reference you can use. It's very easy to follow. Adds additional angle to make it REST compatible. And pretty much thank you for watching. Please reach out. It's very important to hear your feedback on this presentation. And good luck with your microapps.